Hello and welcome to the Choralosophy Podcast, a weekly podcast whose mission is multifaceted. Each week when you tune in, you will find episodes that question best practices, challenge music education dogma, facilitate conversations about touchy topics, demonstrate pedagogies, and conversations where colleagues learn from each other. This is episode 236, Unlocking Student Musicianship with Dictation, with Cindy Ellis. A common theme on this show is teaching the whole language of music. So I was pleased to link up with Cindy to hear how important dictation is in her pedagogy, a crucial and often missing element of common teaching practice. What does it take to build a thriving choral program? Is it just a lifelong passion for music? Well, you should have that, I suppose, but it's also solid pedagogy and time with students. In this episode, I sit down with Cindy Ellis, a choir director from Miami, to explore her incredible journey from growing up in Cuba to shaping young singers in the U.S. Cindy shares how her experiences as an immigrant shaped her approach to teaching, why music literacy is non-negotiable, and how she fosters student independence through composition, dictation, and ear training. So listen all the way to the end. This is a fascinating conversation. And then, of course, tune in and have your thinking stimulated and challenged, and weigh in yourself. We would like to know what you think about this conversation in the Choralosopher's Facebook page or on Substack at choralosophy.substack.com. Attention event organizers. Ludus is here to take your events to the next level. Imagine a ticketing platform that's not just about tickets. Ludus offers marketing, fundraising, and even volunteer management, all in one place. It's time to streamline your event management process and impress your attendees. Join the Ludus family today and unlock endless possibilities for your events. Go to ludus.com/choralosophy and try it out now, free to you. And if you use that link, you'll get the marketing feature free to your customers as well. I don't know if you've heard about it. If you haven't heard about it, you've got to go try 3-Minute Theory. You can go to 3minutetheory.com and you can check it out now when you decide to get this comprehensive system of pre-made materials for your music theory related concepts. You just go into that account and pull out tons of ready-made material. I don't think you'll be even able to teach all of it in 1 year. It's so much stuff that you can tailor make and custom make to your needs. So go check it out. And of course, use the Choralosophy discount code when you sign up to get a 15% discount on your membership. You could chip in here for $3 a month and make a real difference in my ability to continue doing this show into year 2025 and beyond. So you can go to patreon.com/choralosophy to sign up there, or you can just upgrade your free Substack subscription to a paid Substack subscription. Either way, the money goes to the same place for the same purpose. The producers and inner circle at Patreon are Venture Studios, Brian Long, Angie Schilling, Danelle Eckert, David Kowalczyk, Kyle Peterson, Max Jackson, Michael Herron, and Steve and Kathy Kakachik. Okay, everybody, I'm here with Cindy Ellis, singer, choir teacher, from Miami, Florida. Well, I don't know if maybe from is the wrong word, but I will let Cindy tell us about that. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Chris.
Well, I'm excited to learn more about you. In fact, that's one of the first things I'd love to learn is tell us more about you, your background, kind of what led you to be doing what you do every day.
I was born in Cuba, and I lived in a very musical household. My mom loved to play music every day. And aside from that, a lot of Hispanic parents apparently want their children to become ballerinas or something, or be in some sort of dance class. So I grew up, they put me in dance class when I was 3. I barely knew how to walk and I was already in ballet. I didn't really sing until I came to the United States when I was 11. So I danced in Cuba for about 8 years, and then came here. And dancing in this country, as you know, is very expensive. So we could not afford the dance lessons and everything. So I started singing because singing is free.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. So then I sang here, and it was just like very informal karaoke singing. My sister, who got me out of Cuba, and my brother, her husband loved karaoke, and it was kind of like my introduction to singing. So I started singing here, and I did choir. And then when it was time to go to college, both my parents were teachers, and I knew education. I loved helping other people, and I loved music. So I just kind of combined the two very, last minute. I did not prepare some sort of fancy audition. I just last minute said I want to be, music ed instead of being undecided, let me be a music educator, a music ed major until I decide. And I loved it. And I just stayed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Now, so I have a couple of questions about some of your early experiences then. So was it Cuba to Miami?
Yeah, I came straight from Holguín, Cuba, which is in the eastern side. A lot of people, even here in Miami, from Cuba, don't think I don't sound, when I speak Spanish, I don't sound very Cuban, and it's because it depends where you're from in the island. Your accent is different, and yeah, even people from Venezuela are like, "Oh, what part of Venezuela are you from?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I am Cuban," but yeah, it's from the eastern side. And yeah, I came when I was 11 with my brother, who was 15 at the time. So it was a tough transition. But
yeah. And you said, and I feel free to tell me this is just too personal, but you said your sister got you out.
Yes, she came in.
Tell us about that. That's fascinating.
Yes, she came in the year 2000 by literal luck. Her dad, we have different dads, won some sort of lottery that they had going on back then. They don't have that anymore. And you can bring one person. So he brought my sister, and my sister made the, very, very tough decision of leaving us and leaving our mom and my brother and coming here with her dad with the hopes of getting my mom, my brother, and I out of Cuba. And my mom unfortunately passed away when I was 7 in that whole paperwork, process. And yeah, my sister did it. It was just me and my brother. And then my sister ever since has been like my mom since 2005. That was 20 years ago.
Wow. So is it that you need somebody who's already here who can fill out paperwork and make that all happen? Is that how that works?
Yes, at least. And now it's still the same, but it's different. A different, pile of paperwork you have to do. There's still a way, but it is very for example, me and my brother went to the embassy, the U.S. embassy in Havana from Holguín, and if they say no in that interview, it doesn't matter how much paperwork they fill out over here, you're just not allowed to leave legally, right? Mm-hmm. So I have tried to get my grandma, my uncle, my aunt, I have tried to do the same process, and they have said no. So I still have a lot of family in Cuba.
Do they give a reason, or do they just say no?
They don't have to. No.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Well, it's such an amazing story, and I know that I'm glad you're here, and I bet you there's a bunch of kids at a school in Miami that are glad you're here. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Now, there's another random question about Cubans and Miami, though, because I have to ask. My dad lives in Key West, so I'm through Miami quite a bit. I saw a video on TikTok about something called Miami English. Are you familiar with this concept?
Yes, but also, I don't know, it's the only English I know. When I came from Cuba, English was, and I make jokes with my students because they love Harry Potter and stuff when it was coming out around that time. I always joke around and tell them that I don't understand Harry Potter because everything sounded like a spell. Like when he was speaking gibberish, so did the English sounded like gibberish to me. So I never really got into it because it was all a spell to me. And I guess I promised them I have to get back to, watching now that I have more English comprehension. But yes, the Miami English, I've seen the TikToks too. There's certain words that people use, but my brain right now, it's just, I guess, just trying to speak the English language, even just speaking to you right now, it's always translating and thinking in the two languages. So I honestly don't have time for the Miami English myself.
Yeah. So do you in your social circles and in your the places where you spend time there in Miami, do you still find yourself in a lot of Spanish speaking environments where it's completely Spanish?
Yes, even within my own classrooms, I have the students coming in from other countries, halfway through the year, somebody gets here from Colombia or from Guatemala, and they join in the class, and you have to, Spanglish is what we call it, where you're just going back and forth. Definitely with my family a lot. I live a mile away from my sister, and another mile. Like I'm in between my sister and my brother. So I speak with my own family. And then, of course, when I reach out to my family back in Cuba, always speaking in Spanish. But it's cool because my classroom is, I believe, 100% either first generation or second generation Hispanic immigrants.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. Okay. So in fact, that's a great segue to your school. Tell us more about it. So tell us about the school you teach at, the kind of what your course load is throughout the day. Like what kinds of classes do you teach? What does your school offer for music, etc.?
I teach at Miami Art Studio 6 through 12. So I work with sixth graders all the way through seniors in high school. They come in, at 10 years old sometimes, and they leave at 18. So it's a very wide age range, and they sort of grow up with me. They almost like live with me as long as they have lived with their parents at that point when they come in. So it's very interesting. I start the day at 7:30 with 40 sixth graders. And as the day progresses, so do the ages. So I made my schedule work so that I start with the youngest and end with the oldest students. I see my kids every day, which is a blessing. Every day I have sixth grade. The second block every day, seventh and eighth grade, a big combined class of seventh and eighth graders. Then I have my top group that is my treble group. And at the end of the day, I have an a cappella group that is only 11 students. And we work on pop and jazz and other genres outside of the traditional choral repertoire. So full day of choir every single day. Since it's a performing arts magnet school, it's a public school, but the kids do audition. They're 10 years old when they come in. So it's not like they're singing some, fancy aria or something. They're just coming in and singing happy birthday.
Right.
And we basically take in everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they do have the passion. So I guess that's what separates the magnet school, or the performing arts magnets, from even though they're, it's a public school, the interest level is very high, and every kid is motivated. Well, most every kid is very motivated to be there. And yeah, it's just a great culture and environment at the school. It is 6 through 12. My husband actually teaches as well at the school, and he does only high school. He does not speak middle school whatsoever. That is my classroom. But he does have the high school mixed choir, and then he also does sound engineering. He does the AP theory and piano, other curriculum.
That is really interesting. So he is also teaching choir. So I noticed you said that your top group is a treble group, and I've seen recordings online. They're phenomenal. Everybody needs to go check out Cindy's choir. And so then I'm assuming that the kind of the more advanced boys would go through his group. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. They are with him. And then I do still maybe like 4 or 5 for the a cappella group, but they actually see him every day, and every other day that a cappella group meets with me.
I see.
So it's a lot of music. So we get to do amazing things. And I think I put a lot of emphasis in those middle school years, so that in high school we get to pretty much do whatever we want in terms of, genres and styles and complexity in the music. Because in middle school I am so I love that, even though it sounds crazy to teach 46 graders at 7:30 in the morning. I really love that, because I set the routine and I set the standard from day one, and they're with us for 7 years. So yeah, we have fun.
That's incredible. See, the sixth graders in the school district that I teach in, this is where my kids go to school too. I'm horrified by it, but our sixth graders get to have vocal music for 7 weeks total.
That's it?
That's it. That is their only opportunity in our school district, unless they can afford to or choose to sign up for band and orchestra. They get no music for 3/4 of the year at all. Wow. It's awful. And then when they get to 7th and 8th grade, they can do vocal music for 1/2 of the year, and that's the maximum amount that they can have. So they can either do it every other day for the whole year, or every day for a semester, and those are their two choices.
Wow.
So we get 9th graders at the high school for the first time are having choir every day for the first time in their life. And so, yeah, I mean, it's that just sounds like a dream. And so I'm curious to hear from you. I'm so glad you said it this way too. Is I get to start those sixth graders and establish a routine and set a standard. Talk to us about that. What are the things that you kind of hold valuable for your sixth graders? What are the things that you are able to? What are some of those routines that you get to do with them?
I used to sing in this choir with another music educator in town. Her name is Deborah Marr. She just retired after teaching for almost 50 years in the county. And we used to sing evensong in downtown Miami. And she told me, I picked her brain in the car rides, to downtown. And she once told me, melodic dictation is the secret sauce to teaching. Even middle school. She taught middle school for, maybe 20 years. And I really believed her. She's been presenting on melodic dictation for years, but it doesn't seem to stick. And it stuck with me. I said, whatever you say, Debbie, like you say dictation works. And I went in, and this is around the time I was about to graduate with my undergrad. So I go in. I've only been teaching at Moss since I graduated. So I've been teaching there for 8 years. And it feels like, even though I didn't walk into what it is today, when I walked in, it wasn't that same environment. It wasn't the structure of music literacy. It was something else. So it almost feels like I've been at two different places. But now that those sixth graders, graduated, and now the culture is there, I just, that routine of dictation, since I forgot to mention to you that we meet 90 minutes a day.
Oh, so my God.
An hour and a half. Yeah, I forgot that little detail. An hour and a half daily, Monday through Friday. It's like 7.5 hours a week. And so I have time, because I know some schools, you have 45 minutes, or you have 50 minutes, or you have 1 hour every other day. So you may not have 20 minutes for dictation. But I do take my 20 minutes as the bell ringer every single day. So even in sixth grade, they come in, not per se the first week, I'm introducing. I am a big believer in things in music. Some things got to be memorized, just like the back of your hand. You have to know it, like the spelling of your name, the notes on the staff, your key signatures. I can say 3 sharps and you're telling me A major, F sharp major, F sharp. This is the English thing, minor. So the thing is, that's just a memory, it's like you memorize it and that's it. It doesn't change, right? It can be adjusted, it can be modified, but those things just don't change. So from sixth grade, I have them memorize the key signatures. They walk in and I say, listen, to walk in through the door, you have to tell me your keys. And they laugh because the key for the door. But anyway, they're babies. So they line up outside, and this may sound crazy, but I go one at a time because it's very important to me. And, 1 week we'll do all the sharps, and I'll give them their time. Hey, today we're going to talk about G major, D major, right? A major. At the end of the week on Friday, they line up, and in order to get in the door, and this may take me half the class, and that's okay. It's a good investment. They have to say 1 sharp G major, 2 sharps D major, 3 sharps A major, 4 sharps E major, 5 sharps B major, 6 sharps F sharp major, 7 sharps C sharp major. The next week we'll do all the flats. Then they have to tell me both lists. Once they know it, though, let me tell you, they will not forget. And throughout the week I have little pop quizzes like, hey, can you tell me what 3 sharps is? Can you tell me what 3 flats is? And I just really make sure that foundation of understanding the keys, while I spend a week with each key when it comes to the dictation side. So I'll combine that random memorization that they don't even know what they're even saying with a week of, okay, in C major, we're going to play, and I do happen to have a piano right in front of me. So I'll play the simplest thing, it's super easy, like what solfege, as we're learning to sing the scale, I'm going to play these 4 notes, write them down in solfege individually, really secretly write it on your journal. And little by little, okay, tell me, raise your hand if you know what it is. So I just put a lot of emphasis on ear training, but through games and stuff, and just thinking outside the box to get them knowing the notes on the staff through the dictation, as well as I do index cards and I time them with knowing the notes. and then the key signatures, and then for the 3 years in middle school. As they get into high school, I forgot to mention that I also do Sight Reading Factory. Shout out to Sight Reading Factory. They are my, best helpers, especially now with the with the self-assessment. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, you don't get 100. You got a 97. You were flat. Like, sorry.
I know. I love it too.
Like,
I love
it's
it.
AI. The AI said you're flat. It wasn't me. I would have given you 100. I'm nice. It was AI.
If you haven't already, I really think it's time for you to ditch the bulky sight reading books, the paper, all of the things that are already in the kids' folders in your classroom because it's not customizable to what they need in the moment. Sight Reading Factory allows this and so much more, including auto-assessment for at-home assignments, no more grading them individually. They can be graded in the moment. So use the Choralosophy checkout code, Choralosophy. When you check out, it'll give you a 10% discount every time you get a membership for yourself and for all of your students, which is really, really important so they can do this at home. We all love to travel with our students, but we definitely don't love planning a trip. I know I've been there as the point person for details, and it is a nightmare. Forms, payments, fundraising, it's a never-ending task that takes away from doing what we love. That's where Kaleidoscope Adventures comes in. They've been planning performance trips for more than 30 years and handle all the details from start to finish. And one of the best parts about Kaleidoscope, they have crowdfunding options for every traveler. Contact Kaleidoscope Adventures at mykatrip.com to find out how they can take your travel beyond expectations.
So anyway, I am so sorry for the random noises of the messages. Yeah, I just, those first 3 years are, and I'm still, through the using repertoire to teach concepts, and through the dictation, actually, if I could just like tattoo this across my forehead, through dictation, you can teach anything and everything. You can teach phrasing, you can teach dynamics, you can teach sight reading concepts, you can teach, and you're not really, let's practice sight reading. No, you are teaching them to hear something and put it down on a piece of paper. And whether they, do anything with that for the rest of their life, who knows, who cares? But nobody can take that from them. And that's what I tell them. I'm like, you're like in less than 1% of the entire universe.
Yeah.
So it's just putting an importance in that skill that you put in them, and then whatever happens after high school happens. And I'm a big believer in following your dreams, and as I have, and accomplishing your goals and just being your best. But because of that foundation in middle school, then when they get to high school, I literally throw at them whatever comes to my mind. I go to a conference, I hear a choir, and I say, my kids can do that. Some songs are harder than others, but because of of course, the blessing of seeing them every day and the consistency in their, their education from 6th grade, we get to have a lot of fun. There is less sight reading factory, let's say, in high school. I'll say, yeah, you got to practice 10 minutes every day. And I'll check one of your weeks, like every other month. If you did it, great. If you didn't do it, then, then you missed it. You should have done it. I'll check 1 week every quarter, let's say, and I pick a random week just to keep them consistent. But I don't check it as much in high school because we're working in a lot of repertoire. I pull out 10 songs and we'll just read through stuff. So we're using more repertoire. We're putting to work the skills that they got in middle school. So by the time they're freshmen, not that I have a lot of freshmen, this year I have one in my top group. I just like the older tone in the treble group. But musically, the freshmen could do, after 3 years of theory and dictation and sight reading factory and blah, 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 they can really handle a lot as freshmen. So it just like breaks my heart whenever I hear anybody say, oh no, I only see my kids, twice a week, or I only see them 40, and the potential that I know is in this world, and the lack of resources, even in Cuba, being myself, just thinking back to my friends and the talent that I know is just sitting inside some kids that is just not, explored, and they don't have access to things, that's,
yeah,
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is such an amazing situation. But also I would say you're being very humble, of course. And yes, I know you have a blessing of that time, but you're also using that time to prioritize that pedagogy and that literacy. And so, way to go. I mean, that's incredible. And I'm also thinking about everything you're saying, and I'm trying to put it into my context, because in the reality where I live, because the kids have such limited experience before they get to me. It sounds like I'm doing a lot of what you in ninth grade for the first time, what a lot of your ninth graders are already doing. And so we have to do our sight reading factory every day. Like, we do it every single day, because for a lot of kids, I am teaching them what quarter notes are. I shouldn't say a lot. We have a percentage that still by middle school don't know, what that is. But I would say most kids are not able to tell me what key we're in, like when they get to ninth grade. I would say probably 85% of them don't know how to say that's B flat major or that's G.
Yeah.
It's usually, for me, at the beginning of ninth grade, it's I put a question like that up, and it's the band kid. I can do it. Or the kid who takes piano lessons, I can do that. Stuff like that. But then everyone else is like deer in the headlights; they have no idea. And I think and I think I also like how you said that missing potential that's out there, because I think you're exactly right. In districts that do that to kids, and I do think it's fair to say do that to kids. Like, when you take away those opportunities for them. From them, then oftentimes they get to ninth and 10th grade and they've already decided, well, I suck at this.
Yep.
Not because they actually tried really hard and failed. It was because they were constantly given opportunities to sing, but not without the resources to get good at singing. And so then, like, well, I guess I'm not very good at it. Yeah, and now, do you see that? Because I've heard a little bit about Miami, in that with the charter schools and et cetera, you probably have a very different setup than a lot of the kids that live around you, right? So is that true? Is that like, do all Miami kids get to sing like this?
Miami does have a strong music. I would say the choral community, at least those of us who are teaching, we have our chats and we're always helping each other, and we do have our nice little community. For a second, Florida started cutting programs, at the middle school level especially, which is really important, because
right.
Like you said, if you miss it in middle school, all of a sudden you don't want to do it in high school. You don't want to be a freshman that doesn't know it, that doesn't know what's going on. So I would say those of us who are lucky enough to have a program, whether it's magnet, whether it's, we are doing our best with what we have.
Right.
And at the, down the street from us, our school has about 1,850 kids for a 6 to 12, is very small. Down the street, there's a public school that a good friend, of mine teaches at, and he just started the choir there. And the school has 4,500 kids. So there are children, here, and there's potential. We just have to work hard with what we, given our individual situation. Right. So I know for a fact we're doing our best. It's just sometimes things are out of our control. That's when the kids end up suffering.
Yeah, that's true for all of us, for sure. We have to do what we can with what we have and meet the kids where they are, for sure. Okay, let's move ahead in your program, though. What happens in 7th and 8th grade? How is it different for the kids on a day-to-day basis than what they do in 6th grade?
So I don't have to do that key signature thing anymore. Yay.
Okay. All right,
they
good.
already know it. They don't have to do timed quizzes with, the note cards for the notes on the staff. But they do dictation, and every week it does get... so I actually practice dictation with them every single day. Now in 7th and 8th grade is a random key every day. We could be minor, we could be major. And I don't prepare it on the board. I don't say, here's your key, and I just speak it. And this is why I love it as a bell ringer, because they walk in and they're like, as soon as the bell rings, I whisper to them, we're in D major, 4/4. And it gets them listening, which is the best thing for a choir to do when they walk in, right? Everybody's in their own world, their own drama. They walk in and it's like, what is she going to say? And they have their journals out and they're ready to put their little sharps or their little flats. So we do the dictation. And then, I do a lot more for the 7th and 8th graders of student-led warm-ups, and I give them feedback. I have some students conducting in the 7th and 8th grade class, conducting the class and working on patterns, and just diving more into being musical. Is not perfect, but I can always reach, I almost, the tone across my choir, I'm going to teach my 6th graders like I teach my seniors every single day in the warm-ups. It's not, oh, you're in middle school, so we're going to go for this different, tone. I'm going to sing the same exact way, and they're going to give me their best with what they have, right?
Right.
And I make adjustments, but they can handle a little bit more parts. They can handle, the harder rhythms in their dictation. They're doing 16th notes. They're writing their own dictations. They're composing. It leads into arranging. Once they know all those keys, I tell them, I'm like, listen, you know how you write your 4 measures? Sometimes I say, we're in B major, do your own. Let's sing it all at the same time. And it sounds like pure chaos, but it's the most beautiful chaos you'll ever hear when you have 12-year-olds all singing in the same key, different rhythms that they composed. It's magic. It's literal magic. I don't even consider my work because it's just magic. And they don't even know what they're doing sometimes, but I'm like, you don't even know what you're pulling off right now. But they don't understand it yet. In high school, they're like, oh, when they go and they travel and they're like, oh, wait, we're pretty good. I'm like, hello, I've been telling you for years, we've been working towards this. So yeah, the 7th and 8th graders do get a little bit more complexity in things. They do a little, more different styles. I'm very foundational and putting in the groundwork in 6th grade. And then definitely in high school, we're working, more, we're diving deeper into, which I do a little bit in middle school, but not as deep with the meaning, because I have the time we get to talk a lot more in high school, and we get to discuss, and we get to, they're a little bit more mature. So
right.
we're in high school.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. That's just amazing. And I it sounds like you had said this already with the literacy process. By the time they get to high school, in your program, that's when it's time to really be applying a lot of the things that you have already taught them. So drilling, the drilling of the fundamentals is behind them, so that they can really just dig into repertoire. Is that how you would describe it?
Yep. And they just become a lot more independent. I wouldn't say confident, just because 6th graders sometimes are the most confident. In a 6 to 12 school, you would not believe how the 11-year-olds are the first ones. And maybe it's just that lack of understanding of what they're even doing. They're just like, I love to sing, sign me up, right? And it's awesome. And I don't know what happens to teenagers.
Puberty.
Yeah, I guess they something smacks them in the face, and they lose, as their ear gets better and better, they get more self-conscious of what they're singing. Mm-hmm. and how their friends, think they sound, and everybody becomes very judgmental, and they lose that innocence and that energy. But you gotta bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, you're exactly right. I think that's pretty universal. Okay, so Cindy, this is a question that every teacher hates to get, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is your why? Why do you do this job?
I honestly, when I think of my whys, I think of my upbringing when I was a little kid, and all the sacrifices that were made by multiple family members, and why my uncle, went to work every day, woke up at 4 a.m, came back at 8 o'clock at night to get paid like $10 a month or something like that. And you just grow up in this, it sounds terrible. Now from this side, it's like, why did he do that? And he didn't have to, you just absorb throughout your lifetime people's resilience or something. I don't know. My why is almost making them proud is making
Yeah.
my mom proud. My mom is not even here, but I tell my kids, I wish she was here to listen to you, singing. That's deep inside. And this is, I don't know, maybe I'm like, it sounds like I'm in therapy or something. I'm like, it's to make my mom proud and to, I love singing. I tell my kids, I breathe choir. I go home, I run, I listen to choir music. I wake up and I'm thinking about choir music. I come to work and I sing with them a lot. I read through music with even the little kids, I'm reading music every single day. And my why deep down is to like make my mom proud, I would say. If that's, it sounds corny, but I would say it's my
No,
why.
it's not
And
corny
then,
at all.
you want to create at the beginning. If you asked me this 8 years ago, I would say I want my kids to, go out and be successful musicians and accomplish, great musical things. And I've grown out of that. And, I just see them choose their different paths and just be happy,
Yeah.
and it's like find your why. And we, yes, drill the musical literacy because, like I said, nobody can take it from them. And you teach them life skills through the music, so you end up creating, helping create kind human beings and respectful people that, like even when we go on field trips, I'm like, you have to tip everywhere we go. We go to a restaurant, you tip, the workers. We go to the hotel, you tip. Like you're just putting your little grain of sand, you're adding your little grain to their, like their timeline or something. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm very bad. As I said, I'm thinking in Spanish simultaneously.
You're doing great. You're doing great. So, all right. So that's really good. And actually, it's not corny at all what you said because, and I can identify with it. I lost my mom when I was 17, and she was actually a choir director. And so I 100% identify with what you just said. I have many times over my career had that same thought. Oh man, I don't think my mom ever heard a high school choir that can sing like my kids. I wish that she could just have heard that one time, right? Because I grew up in a tiny little town in the middle of Kansas. There weren't a whole lot of kids. There weren't a whole lot of kids, period. Let alone a choir of the size that I can teach. So yeah, I absolutely have had that thought many times. And I'm glad you brought up running too, and being kind of like obsessed with choir music all the time. Because it sounds to me, and I want you to tell me that if this is wrong, but it sounds to me like you do really love your job.
I honestly, between you and me and whoever's listening, I don't look at my paycheck. I literally feel like I work for free. I don't know, like I don't, and I do gigs outside of work or whatever, but I'm not. I think of people that go to work. I can't imagine myself going to work to be paid or to, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're human beings. We wake up and we're like, oh, I'm so exhausted, like
Right.
here I go. But then you walk in and it's like some little 10-year-old is running up to me to, with so much energy. It's like infectious and it's not a job to me. And they don't understand that. Like the kids come, from all their little different households and whatever their situations are. And maybe they're thinking of a job like their parents work and they, think of their jobs, whatever they think, but it's sort of unique. Even the teachers that, teach math or another subject, it's not, there's something about music that makes it, if you really love it, it doesn't feel like I'm working, if that makes
Yeah.
if that
Oh
makes
my
sense.
goodness, yes. Yep. I am in year 22 of my teaching career, and with the exception of the 2 years right during the pandemic, I felt that way for every single one of those years. And so, yeah, I can. It really is an amazing job. It's an amazing job, especially I think, and we'll see what you think about this. When we balance the things that we've been talking about, resources for kids,
Yeah.
a pedagogical foundation, so that they feel like they're good at what we're teaching them to do. Like if we can't get them to feel like they're good at it, then they won't they won't keep doing it, and then it's very difficult for us to really feel like we're being effective. So we have to have all those things, and then of course we also have to have that life outside of school, whether it be the I can go for a run, I can go sing in a gig, I can in my case work with my church choir so that I can see that full circle of my 90-year-old soprano who has been singing since she was really little, and I'm wrapping this choral music into a life rather than just a job. It's like, it's part of my life. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, I would say, between church and my my school and my own gigs, I don't know, it's in my resolutions to like relax. Literally, line item number 1 in the 2025 resolutions: slow down. Because it does, it ends up like just becoming, you don't know where the line is, right? And you end up exhausted and overwhelmed. And I started my day at 7 a.m, and there's just one thing after another. And then I work every Sunday at a church, but then I run sound for a concert series that happens on South Beach every Sunday. And so I have like 10-hour days on Sundays as well. So my only free day is really Saturday. But if I am singing somewhere, now sometimes I go 3 weeks, nonstop. And so, yes, relax is in the list. But yeah, it just ends up taking over, and you just, that's why we're running steps in, and it's like I have to make time for running. Right. And if I'm not running, something is wrong. Yeah. Because it's the way that I relax and I think of other things. And yes, I'm listening to choir music, but I love it. So It's just like my therapy to go out and jog. And something about running, and my kids, they hear my running analogies every other day. But just that self-improvement mentality of like, I'm doing something and next month I can do it better. And the big picture mentality versus like, I'm working toward, no, I'm not working toward your concert next month. I'm working toward your 10 years from now when you're doing X, Y, and Z. I'm working toward you teaching your little future children to, sing along with you. Like I'm working toward your lifetime, not short term, right? It's like, so things end up connecting one way or another. Everything becomes music, at least in my life. And then I teach with my husband, and, which is a blessing because, well, to us it's a blessing. To our, our administrators, who are, by the way, another piece of the puzzle. They are very supportive. True. We ask them for these people in this class, and not every administrator, says, yeah, you can have those people in those classes. They can just say no, So we have very supportive administrators, but, we end up sometimes working a lot of extra hours, but that's where my mentality of I don't feel like I'm working comes in, and I just love what I'm doing. Sometimes when I'm gigging, like tomorrow night, there's this hotel on South Beach. I'm always looking for ways my students can get performing opportunities. We do a lot of group singing, so I'm always looking for individual singing opportunities for the kids because they're good enough. Like they're, future music majors, a lot of them, and I want them getting performance experience. So tomorrow we have this hotel on South Beach at every third Thursday of the month. We feature one of our high schoolers, and they sing for a couple hours. I sing a few songs, they sing a few, and then one of my old professors from college sings. So they call it the intergenerational jazz night. But I'm always, thinking of ways to prepare my students for anything and everything musical, so that they can be successful and be hireable, and not, because if you keep them in the square, of like, this is choir, that's it, then they can't sing alone, or they don't have the confidence to do certain things. So I'm just trying to make them as well-rounded as possible while teaching them life skills, through music. So. Right.
Yeah, that's really good. And I like how you included in there that we don't teach kids, and this is what I'm interpreting, we don't teach kids to sing in choir. We don't have a choir class at our school so that the only thing they can ever sing is choir. That's not why we teach choir. I think I would make the argument, and again, you're always allowed to disagree with me on this show. It's our thing. Is that we choose choir as the main vehicle for teaching music to kids in schools mostly because we can get a whole bunch of them in there and get a really quality foundation for their vocal training and music literacy training and for their oral training, etc. Yes, you could teach a kid like to be probably maybe an even better soloist if you had them for an hour by themselves every day. But that's like, obviously that's not real. Like you can't impact very many kids. We would leave so many kids out. And so we do choir. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree. And a lot of our students actually, maybe like, now it's different with the incoming class. I gotta get to know them a little more and find out about whether they take lessons or not. But most of our kids get so much music at school that they don't take lessons. I do, in the big picture and future plans, want to bring in somebody to work in because I don't have the time. I teach it's 8 periods, 4 classes a day. And I don't have time to work individually with juniors and seniors that are prepping for auditions. And I can give them some feedback. And during lunch, you give up your lunch and you give up your morning and you give up after school, but it's just not, enough time. So I do want to bring somebody to do the juniors and seniors, but it's impossible to have lessons with 200 kids or to see them individually. And that's why one of the reasons I love Cyber Factory, because now it does the self-assessing and you check every once in a while. There's a couple of recordings you have to listen to for whatever discrepancy. But before, I would sit like sometimes during runs, like safely, I would be listening to kids, and I love listening to the beginning of the year Cyber Factory assignment, and I quiz them every single Friday, believe it or not. And every Saturday I listen to every recording and I hear them from week to week grow technically, speaking, and confidence and intonation and the rhythm accuracy and, X, Y, and Z, all the things, by taking the time to listen to them individually. So I would love to listen, and I tell them in class, especially the little kids, can we sing karaoke? I'm like, listen, we'll do karaoke. But I don't have time to listen to everybody. Right. Because we would be here, or like at the concerts, not everybody can have a solo because we would be here until 2026.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's awesome. And if we could, kind of in our final little segment here, tell us more about the gigs. You mentioned already that you do jazz, and I've heard some clips of you singing too, and it's pretty incredible what you do. Is that your main, like when you go out and gig, say in a hotel in Miami, is it jazz primarily or all jazz?
Yes, I love jazz. I studied jazz in college at FIU, and as I was saying, actually tomorrow's gig features my professor from FIU, myself, and then one of my students. And my husband plays jazz piano, so it's perfect. Not that we practice every day, because the last thing between you and me and anybody else who's listening, the last thing I want to do after a full day of teaching choir is get home and sing. So like we're practicing on gigs, if we have something specific coming up or some sort of theme, we'll get that together. But also a resolution for 2025 is to learn more jazz standards. I know already 200 standards, but there's a million of them, so why not more? But yes, mainly I'm singing jazz, some pop here or there, a little gospel here or there. But you never know, the jazz audiences and like the hotel audiences, it's not like I'm going into a hall and there's a spotlight and everybody's watching me. It's more relaxed and I love improvising, and I actually love bringing in some of the jazz into the choir, into the choral ensemble, because just being in the moment, it's not always soft, it's not always loud singing, it's not, which is the thing which I appreciate as well. There's a place for everything in this musical world, and there's a place for always being a certain dynamic, but there's also a place for watch my hands, and what if I want you to sing it soft this time, and it makes it so much fun to be in a concert and bringing that improv to the choir universe. And I love that I get to do that with the J-Mac singers. He is so in the moment. The guy, Dr. Jason Max Ferdinand, does not rehearse anything like it's going to be performed. We don't even know the program. Like a lot of the time, well, when we have to, we knew the ACDA program. That's basically the only concert that we knew ahead of time because it had to be printed, that it was going to be a certain way. Every other concert we've ever done, sometimes he's speaking in between songs, and if you don't catch what he just said, and he's very soft-spoken, you're like, what? And the piano starts, and you're like, oh, okay, that's the song. Here we go. But I love that. And then within the song is like, last time we sang it, it was loud. Now it's going to start soft. You better be watching, right? And I just love the whole improvisation world as well. So I feel like my students can benefit from that as well. When I sing by myself, definitely a lot of jazz. But then again, I get to live in the choir. I see it as a blessing as well because I get to see the world from my students' perspective when I'm singing in a choir myself, and I'm like reminded, oh, when I say that, my thoughts, I'm like, this is probably what my students think when I say that. It's cool because you get to live in. It's a hard balance. Like we have, for example, next month we're singing at TMEA, and I love going out, learning something. Every time I go and sing, I learn something new. Even tomorrow night, I'll pick up something from that performance and bring it back to the kids. Mm-hmm. Next month when we go, with the choir, I'll learn something. I'll try something new conducting-wise. It's just always fresh. Even though, I see the kids every single day, I get to play around with making their experience just more engaging.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Now, how did the connection with that group come about?
So back in 2020, quick, I'll make this long story short.
Yep.
2020, we were supposed to take our choir to Music for All, which was happening in Indianapolis. But our trip gets canceled. It was booked for March 12th, 2020. And the day before, Florida shuts down out of state. And we were on our way to sing with the Aeolians. They were singing with Jason in Indianapolis. So the choir stays, but the festival goes on. So me and my husband decide to go anyway. We booked our own separate flights. And we go to Indianapolis to make the connections. The festival's still going. Our children stay behind. They were not very happy about that, but in the end, that was the best decision. And we just got stuck in Indianapolis for a couple of days because everything started shutting down. So we got to talk to Jason and build that connection there for the first time. Then the festival kind of, crumbles as everything did with the beginning of COVID. Mm-hmm. We get back, everybody's, stuck home for months. 2021, when things start opening up again, everybody's in masks and everything. I get this phone call from the organizers from Music for All, and they say, hey, Jason started this group. Somebody got COVID. And Jason, knows that your kids can sight read because we've told him that they can sight read. So he thinks that you can sight read too. So can you step in? Like, logically, if your kids can sight read, you can sight read. And I'm like, of course, like that's how the kids can sight read, right?
Right.
So he had never heard me sing. He only knew, because they talked about my kids, and he knew that the kids were going to perform at Music for All the previous year. So I say, okay, how many songs? And when is this gig? Like, what is going on? And they're like, oh, it's in 2 days. I'm like, oh, in 2 days. So that's where the sight reading comes in. And I'm like, how many songs? And they say 15. What?
Okay.
15 songs in 2 days. But at least it was, with like fancy microphones first. You did the sound. So I could have my iPad there and we read through the music. It was actually their first meeting. Like the first time they had been on Zoom, like very, virtual choir vibes. And then it was their first meeting in person. So I stepped in their first meeting, just covering for someone who was sick. And that person is, by the way, an amazing singer. I didn't know. I'm like, oh my gosh, when she gets back, what's it going to be like? And she's one of the best altos I've ever heard in my entire lifetime. Just everybody in that choir is just beyond my comprehension of musical things. But because also they're not, which is also inspiring, they're not all musicians as in like for their job, which is what I tell my kids. And that's something I bring back from being in that choir too. Like, hey, there's a cop. There's literally a cop, a lawyer, all walks of life in that choir, and we're singing at this level, right? So it's like you carry that with you and you do whatever you want with it. But here it is.
Yeah.
So then the gig was the Live from London, which is a Voces 8,
Yep.
concert festival that happens. When it aired, we recorded all of that with masks, like the really big masks that are like super thick, the singing ones.
Oh yeah.
And I listen to that recording sometimes, and I'm like, there's no way that's actually being like, I can't believe I understand what we're singing, because I remember the feeling of like just, you're breathing hot air. And
Yeah, they got Cindy. They got those masks through my show's discount code.
Oh, amazing. So there you go. So let me tell you, we leave that gig. When it airs, somebody reached out from ACDA. There was like the interim, I think, president or something of the National ACDA, and they invited us to do so from that we ended up doing, it was like the group was created, and I was luckily part of that first performance, and it's been just beyond my wildest dreams. And we did, for example, Saturday Night Live last year, and it was one of those moments where you tell your kids, you can do anything, but it's kind of like a far dream, to really say those words. You can do anything. So I'm standing in the SNL, sound stage, and Chris Martin is there from Coldplay, and he says, you can do anything. And when he said it, I don't know what it was, but I really believed it, because I was looking around like, oh my goodness, like I can do anything I put my mind to do, And so I came back, and I'm telling the story to my kids, and I'm like, guys, you can do anything. And all of a sudden, it just like uplifted, the energy. Like I'm telling you, every time I come back with a little nugget, I call it, I give them a little nugget from every experience that builds their confidence and builds their passion for what we're doing. Because you would think, it's 7 years with me at that school. It's not everybody goes into music, and that's okay. That's what I just learned. Like I'm preparing whoever's going to go into music is going to be successful, and whoever isn't can be successful, but their heart is elsewhere, and that's okay, but they're sharing the space with somebody that is going to take this for the rest of their life, take this seriously for the rest of their life. You have to respect it the same way.
Yeah.
Even though that's not your career path, you're sharing the space. So yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's a very wise way to wrap up our hour. It's just incredible. As I so appreciate you sharing all of these stories, because I think for a lot of choir teachers that will listen to this, they will kind of listen to all of these things in the system and in the pedagogy and in your life. They're like, well, I'm in like the middle of Nebraska. I can't do those things. And what I think is cool is that you can do anything, to take that quote. It's in a different context for everyone, but we can still teach kids, and we can still teach kids to strive, which is an amazing thing. I'll give you the final word.
Man, after that, I'm like, that's it. Anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and love your kids. And I call them kids, but love your students, and give them your best, and teach them to, no matter what they do, to do their best and give their best, and put others before themselves. The singing in a choir is not an individual thing. It is a group thing. It is a team thing. It is a family thing. You're connecting with your audiences. It's all about the group and not about the individual. So it is just, and that is speaking in musical terms, yes, it's balance and and the chords and blah, blah, blah. But that you can just carry no matter what you do, to put others before yourself and be, a servant leader and walk with passion and care no matter what you do, and we're just blessed to have the opportunity to impact, future, not only teachers, but future doctors and future lawyers and future cops and future, just humans to be their best. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Cindy. This has been awesome. I've been enjoying getting to know you better. And will I see you in Dallas?
100%. We are performing on March 20th in the morning and in the afternoon, early afternoon. So both concerts are on the same day. March
Awesome.
20th.
That's exciting. Very cool. All right, we'll see you then. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of a conversation. If you are still hearing my voice, that means you're one of the MVPs, one of the diehards, one of the real ones, as the kids say. So if you are willing on the way out to check out a few different ways that you can help me continue to make this show high quality. One, use the promo code. That's the biggest one. At Sight Reading Factory, at mymusicfolders.com, at mychoirropes.com, at graphitepublishing.com, and endeavormusicpublishing.com. All of those take the Choralosophy checkout code, and of course now the newest one is 3-Minute Theory. You can get a 15% discount when you enter Choralosophy at checkout there. And of course, going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a positive review is very helpful there, and sharing the episodes to your colleagues in real life and on social media. All of those things are incredibly helpful and allow me to continue to create this resource for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.